personal animated project of 1.5 minutes. How did I develop the brief? How did I write the script? How did I create the storyboard, the voiceover, the animatic, the illustrations, and all the animations? I worked on this for 8 months. And now I will tell you everything. And here's why. Personal projects are crucial to becoming better, and I want to be better. My name is Gabriele Montinaro. I'm a motion designer freelance from the most beautiful country in the world, Italy. Pasta, pizza e mandolino. If I learned anything by doing this project, it's this. What really makes the difference between a bad or a good project is the process. I've divided my entire production process into 10 phases. Let's start from the beginning. Now, fix this concept in your minds. Ideas are solutions to problems. And I had a problem. I'd never be able to complete a personal project. And the solution to my problem was the idea I'd been waiting for. The idea was this: narrate my difficulty in making personal project by working on a personal project. Perfect! The brief is the starting point for any creative project. Basically, it is a document used to define all the characteristics of the project. For example, in my brief, in addition to the goal, the format, duration, publication platform, and target of the video, I defined the emotions I wanted and didn't want to express. I specified the personality I wanted to give to the project. I saved the visual references that inspire me. And last but not least, I defined the call to action. In simple terms, at the end of the video, I hoped to have generated enough interest to lead the people to watch the entire breakdown process on YouTube. So, if you landed here thanks to the project, let me know in the comment, because I am very curious to understand if it worked. Let's move on the next phase of the project. The script was the first element that would shape the story I wanted to tell. So, it was crucial. I needed a good script. But I'm not a storyteller. How could I write a good story? I divided my story into 3 acts: the setup, conflict, and resolution. In the first act, I introduced the dream, my desire to bring a personal project to life. In the second act, I narrated my attempt to bring my project to life and the failure of this attempt. In the third act, I narrated how I understood and resolved the problem, successfully bringing my first personal project to life. But simply dividing the story into 3 acts wasn't enough for crafting a compelling script. All engaging stories have changes in narrative intensity. To manage the narrative intensity of my story, I used an intensity arc, a graph with the video duration on the x-axis and the narrative intensity on the y-axis. The goal for my story was to steadily increase the intensity, culminating in the dream as the final climax. But to keep the viewer's attention high, I need more changes in intensity. So I decided to use 3 climax in my story, 1 for each act. This story structure guided me in the writing of my script. I needed a storyboard to pre-visualize my video. I had to understand if the story I had written could work visually. As a first step, I had found a way to represent ideas, the main element of my story. The ideas can be of any type, so I decided to represent them as strange and always different geometric shapes. So all the shapes you will see in the storyboard represent ideas. I divided the script considering each part as if it were a scene. After that, I roughly sketched each scene, trying to visualize what I imagined. The flow of the story was working, so I had my storyboard. Let's move in the next phase. I had to give a dummy voice to the script to understand the reading times of the text and consequently the duration of each scene. Obviously, I used an AI to create the dummy voice. It was very simple. Every time I generated a sentence, it provided me with a different interpretation. So I generated many outputs and I made a collage of the best part. I didn't expect it, but the result it was so incredible that what was supposed to be the dummy voice of the project became the final voice of the project. So yes, I generated the entire voiceover of the project using AI. Let me know in the comment if you wanted to know which AI I used. Let's move on the next step. I had the storyboard and the voiceover. With these 2 elements, I could create the animatic for the project. The Animatic is a preliminary edit to provide a preview of the flow of an animation. It serves to plan the rhythm of the final project. I simply place the storyboard on the timeline and cut the scenes using the voiceover as a guide. But one thing was still missing to complete the Animatic. Music is the element that most influences the mood of a video. A video with the wrong music will completely change the viewer's emotional experience. Choosing the right music is essential to create a good video. And I wanted to create a good video, so I choose for soundtrack. By adding the soundtracks to the timeline, the Animatic was complete. Finally, I had the first draft preview of my project, and it looks something like this.
Every time I start a personal project, something inside of me just clicks. I get overwhelmed with enthusiasm, and a lot of different ideas flood my mind. I try to piece them together, but more often than not, the result is a jumbled mess that doesn't make any sense. But sometimes, those ideas start to take shape. I keep tweaking and tinkering with them, adding new ideas until I lose sight of the original concept. And when the excitement fades away, I'm left with another unfinished project. Another failure. But this time, it's different. For the first time, I started with a simple idea. I valued it, broke it down, and pieced it back together until it became something tangible and real. It may not be the best idea I've ever had, but this time, unlike all the others, I finished it. This is my first personal project, and I'm really proud of it.
To understand how I transformed this into this, I need to tell you about the production phase of the project. To realize the project illustrations, as a first step, I created a mood board. I simply collected images from various sources that inspire me for my project, and I put them all on a board. After that, I defined 3 color palettes for the project, each with its own narrative purpose. A grayscale palette for the scenes representing a negative imaginary scenario inside my head. A crazy palette without any rules to express moments of creativity. And finally, a palette with a dominant white color for the scenes representing reality. After that, the last step was creating the illustrations. I gave a rough and ugly texture look to the scenes representing my failed ideas. I drew enthusiasm as an explosion of colorful shapes. I created shapes and characters that were crazy and strange to represent the absurd ideas that crossed my mind. I created a collage style elements to represent myself in order to give them a sense of reality. The final idea, it was different from all the others. To differentiate it, I simply added a black border. Finally, I represented the project as the horn of a unicorn, which becomes 3D when the voiceover says real. Don't ask me why I choose a unicorn horn to represent the final project, because there is no reason. I did it only because the idea was fun. I had illustrated all the scenes. Now I had to bring those illustrations to life. The animation phase was the longest, most intense and enjoyable part of the project. I followed an animation workflow divided into 4 phases. And believe me, the 4th phase took the project to the next level. First, I animated the entire video very roughly, without focusing on details like textures and colors. The only goal of this phase was to define the timing of animations. As a second step, I refined all the details of the animations. I added missing elements, cleaned up the geometries, and improved all the animations. In the 3rd phase, I gave all the elements their final look, with colors, textures, and effects. In this phase, for the first time, I said to myself, okay, the result is cool, but it can be even cooler. And that's how I decided to add the 4th animation phase, which was absolutely not planned. Motion blur is the blurry effect that an object has when captured in motion. In After Effects, it only takes one click to achieve it. But I didn't want this result. I wanted to have a better motion blur for my project, something more personalized. To achieve it, I did something I never done before. I drew the motion blur for the entire video frame by frame. It was a long and challenging process, but the result transformed the project into something I never expected. The animation was complete, but before showing you the finished project, I need to tell you about the final step of the project. Wait a moment, because I have a surprise for you. In the body frame section of my website, you can download the project file of this scene for free. You can find the link in the description of this video. Okay, let's go back to the final step of the project. The sound design allowed me to transform this into this. I added swooshes, splashes, and any other sound effects that improve the video. Before showing you the finished project, if you found this video helpful and interesting, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your designer network. And let me know in the comment if you like the project. Now you can finally see my first personal project.
Every time I start a personal project, something inside of me just clicks. I get overwhelmed with enthusiasm, and a lot of different ideas flood my mind. I try to piece them together, but more often than not, the result is a jumbled mess that doesn't make any sense. But sometimes, those ideas start to take shape. I keep tweaking and tinkering with them, adding new ideas until I lose sight of the original concept. And when the excitement fades away, I'm left with another unfinished project. Another failure. But this time, it's different. For the first time, I started with a simple idea. I valued it, broke it down, and pieced it back together until it became something tangible and real. It may not be the best idea I've ever had, but this time, unlike all the others, I finished it. This is my first personal project, and I'm really proud of it.